At the beginning of the story, we see a school scene where a confident guy receives a confession from a popular female student. She is confessing to the main character, but it seems he is rejecting her. Witnessing this, a boy and a girl nearby comment, "Looks like he got rejected again. That's the 5th girl he's rejected this week, right?" The boy beside her responds, "He's already rejected a third of the girls in the school. This guy is really annoying." Our main character, Xiao Zheng, turns away from the girl and says, "Anyway, I've made my point clear. I'm not interested in romance. You're a good person. Don't waste your energy on me." The girl, frustrated, asks, "Xiao Zheng, why do you always reject me? What kind of girl do you like?" Xiao Jing replies, "If I tell you, will you give up?" He then shocks her by saying, "I like bitches. You know I like bitches." And the girl is stunned and responds, "Huh?" Xiao Zheng clarifies, "Yes, I like bitches. But don't get the wrong idea. If you think you can become one to win me over, I will only despise you more. I like natural bitches, born bitches, and you can't become one." The girl, shocked, retorts, "Are you kidding, Xiao Zheng? As a student, how can you openly say such things?" At this moment, a white-haired girl arrives and chides, "Xiao Zheng, right? As a student with a healthy mind, how can you say such shameless things?" Xiao Zheng thinks to himself, "Can you please not come at me one after another? Disappointment, delight, conflict, dispute, enmity, please let me go. I just want to go." The white-haired girl sternly replies, "If someone hadn't been spouting nonsense, would I even be here?" She then takes out a notebook and writes, "I, Xiao Zheng, civilization of school career. You should have responded sooner. X, violation of Rule 2, improper heterosexual interactions, violation of Rule 23, using vulgar language. Your behavior tarnishes the school's reputation and insults other students. Someone like you should be nailed to the school's pillar of shame." Xiao Zheng, feeling cornered, replies, Yes, disciplinary committee, you're absolutely right. I'll go accept my punishment now." The girl who confessed tries to defend Jung, saying, "Why are you making things difficult for him?" The committee member replies, "You go reflect too, and forget all the nonsense he said." Later, reflecting on love, Xiao Zheng thinks, there are many reasons not to fall in love. A solitary soul, an energy-saving lifestyle, or someone next door. But even a solitary soul can be tripped up by true feelings, and energy savers can yearn for a rosy life. Not to mention me. At least they're grounded in reality. But I'm not normal. As expected of the iron-faced disciplinary committee, her aura is terrifying. Someone like her will never have a boyfriend in her life. The committee member, Anyan, responds, "Huh? Let's get out of here." Another girl suggests, "Anan, don't you think we were a bit too harsh?" Anan retorts, "Harsh? As the disciplinary committee, maintaining school discipline is our duty. If they hadn't disrupted the order, we wouldn't have had to be so strict, and I knew I couldn't talk you out of it." The other girl then changes the topic. "By the way, have you heard about the rumors of that strange artist lately?" Anan replies, "Strange artist?" The girl explains, "There's an artist who specializes in drawing inappropriate comics, and it seems they're from our school. Their work is said to feature all kinds of scandalous scenes, but someone noticed a few months ago that the backgrounds were based on our school's scenery." Anan responds, "Aha, really? If I catch this person, I'll definitely turn them over to the police." The other girl agrees, "That's true, but with so many people in the school, it won't be easy to catch them." Later, we see Anyan creating a masterpiece that is too explicit to show. She's engrossed, muttering, "That's right, just like that." Even if the school setting can't be used anymore, there are plenty of places to draw inspiration from. The chest line should be more outward, the expression more intense, the eyes more curious. Bai Anan, revealed to be the underground artist Bai Anan, watches her art, saying, "This is amazing. Last week's comments were up quite a bit. Probably all those unsatisfied guys pushing for updates. Idiots with no taste. What do they know about creation?" Angry at the comments, she exclaims, "You say I have no creative heart? It's you guys demanding more extreme themes, forcing me to draw this stuff. Tentacles? How am I supposed to draw something I've never seen?" Then, receiving a message, she gasps, "Discontinued? That's cancellation! I worked so hard to get the serialization. Could it really be that I'm determined?" Inan says. "At this point, there's no other choice. I'll have to use that forbidden family magic to boost my creative inspiration. You forced me to use this." She prepares a summoning ritual, chanting an incantation and offering blood to form a contract. To her surprise, it works, and she exclaims, "Is that a tentacle?" Although tentacles are the most versatile subject, however, she realizes, summoning a tentacle monster directly is a bit too intense. It'll kill someone. No, now's not the time to back down. With the help of this depraved being, I'll break through my limitations limitations and make everyone look at my manga and, well, you know. Meanwhile, Xiao Zheng, unaware of her plans, eats noodles and unexpectedly meets her gaze. Both are shocked as they realize what's happening. After a moment of silence, the protagonists turned their heads to look at the chaotic drawings on the floor. With a sly smile, one of them said, "Well, it seems I've stumbled upon something terribly horrible. The legendary Iron Discipline Committee actually has a hidden identity, just like that saintly lady who writes under the pen name Biro, who, by the way, was once a very famous comic book author." Upon hearing this, Bai Anan quickly backed away in panic. The protagonist grinned and continued, "So, it turns out it's you." Bai Anan was so flustered that she broke out in a cold sweat but could only pretend to be oblivious. "What? Me? You must have mistaken me for someone else," she stammered. The protagonist stood up, directing their gaze toward the bed where her school uniform and bandages lay. Bai Anan smirked stiffly. "It's just a cosplay uniform, a mere coincidence." The protagonist pointed to a sketch on the floor. "Look over there. That sketch probably depicts our school's teaching building." Bai Anan, pulling her hair in frustration, explained, "It's normal for architectural styles to be similar, so your ID card is also here." The protagonist bent down to pick up her ID card. "Here you go." Bai Anan could only helplessly shout, "Why is my room so messy? Don't look at that photo." She hurriedly snatched her ID card, internally devastated. "It's ruined. It's ruined, damn it. Why did you summon this? What mistake did I make? Today I just taught you a lesson, and now you find a loophole? I will definitely take this opportunity to get revenge. Just you wait." Seeing her panicked expression, the protagonist recalled the main issue and asked seriously, "Did you just use magic to summon me? Although it's a bit hard to believe, I have something to ask you." Hearing those words, Bai Anan gritted her teeth, thinking, "He wants to know more of my secrets." She immediately grabbed a nearby baseball bat, her voice turning cold. "When it comes to this matter, there's no other way to talk about magic. I know a bit about memory erasing magic, too." As she spoke, she stepped closer, surprising the protagonist. "Why is it that everything in your comic artist house is like this? Isn't this what you call magic?" But then, an incident occurred. She stepped on a piece of paper on the ground, lost her balance, and fell forward. The protagonist's thoughts slowed down. A lonely soul will be moved by sincerity, and an energy-humming advocate also wants a rosy life. But anyway, all of us are living in reality. Following your train of thought, her beautiful body is gradually enveloping me. So she's not an ordinary person. After that fall, Bai Anan found herself pressed against the protagonist in an awkward position. She hastily blushed and stood up, exclaiming, "Enough already! Why are your old tricks showing up like this?" But immediately after, Bai Anan's eyes filled with surprise as something soft tightly wrapped around her thigh. She seemed unable to believe it, gazing mesmerized. "What are these objects that just appeared? Tentacles? What's going on here?" Standing behind the protagonist, tentacles grew from their body. The protagonist exclaimed, "If you've spotted them already, then I don't need to explain much further." In Bai Anan's astonished eyes, the tentacles appeared, and the protagonist stood up. "This is exactly what I wanted to ask. Those tentacles sprouting from my body inexplicably, are they related to you?" In a situation where others might be so frightened they'd wet their pants, Bai Anan gazed at the protagonist with excitement and thrill. "Tentacles! So you're a tentacle monster! My summoning spell wasn't wrong at all." The protagonist was left speechless, never expecting someone to be so happy about tentacles. Bai Anan ignored the tentacles tightly wrapping around the protagonist's body and excitedly said, "So this is the feeling of being wrapped by tentacles, the state of being tightly embraced by flesh." Unable to bear the sight any longer, the protagonist shouted, "Stop, or else these tentacles won't be able to retract." After some explanations, Bai Anan understood the situation. "In other words, you also don't know why you became like this, and this is why you always reject the confessions of those female students, right?" The protagonist, sitting opposite, nodded. "Exactly. When I feel excited or aroused, those tentacles appear on my body." Bai Anan, still sketching, continued to ask, "And what about those perverted jocks in school?" The protagonist sighed. "It's just because I want to reject their confessions. At first I thought that after entering university I could love freely, but unexpectedly these tentacles sprouted out of nowhere just before the school year started. How can one have a romantic relationship in this situation? How can we hold hands and hug without any excitement?" He lamented. "The price of that summoning is being locked up like in a zoo. From a civilized human perspective, it's even more tragic, being sliced into sashimi or taken for research. But hey, at least I'm not copyrighted." Meanwhile, Bai Anan painted a picture of a hot girl with tentacles and asked, "What does the painting look like?" The protagonist blushed, sighed, and said, "Don't try to take me there anymore." Bai Anan continued her drawing quest despite hearing that. Yes, although I summoned you here, your transformation into a tentacle monster has nothing to do with me. Turning a normal person into a magical creature is not something I can do. In fact, I haven't even heard of it. Feeling sad, the protagonist asked, "You're not lying to me, are you, Bai Anan?" Bai Anan decisively nodded. It's not about using magic to transform. If I wanted to transform, I would. However, you were summoned by magic identified as a demonic artifact with lust. Moreover, your tentacles don't belong to this world. That's for sure. Naturally, being labeled a lustful demon by the girl surprised the protagonist. The main character, who has always been a bit of a lone wolf, suddenly finds himself in a shocking situation. Despite never having accepted a confession or even held hands, he encounters a humanoid tentacle monster. Weren't you supposed to be some kind of heavenly being, he wonders? As he observes this bizarre creature, he thinks, I could really use this for my future comics. Just by watching you, I'm sure I can create something both authentic and playful. After a moment of stunned silence, the main character, feeling like a deer caught in headlights, strides out of the room. I'm really sorry I couldn't do it, he mutters. If there's a chance, I'll contact you again. But just as he reaches the door, he hears Byun's voice shout, "Stop!" Suddenly, his steps become stiff and he freezes. Confused, he wonders why he can't move. All he sees is Byun placing her hand on his shoulder, looking both dangerous and oddly comforting. Do you think summoning is that simple? She asks. To keep summoned objects from going haywire, there has to be a contract. Byun's hand grips his shoulder and she leans in, asking, do you think you can escape? Feeling the tension, he screams, what are you doing? A contract? What kind of contract? With a mischievous smile, Byun explains, it's a special summoning contract. If anything happens to me, you'll have more problems. As long as I want, we can collaborate. When I say jump, you jump. As she removes her shirt to reveal her smooth shoulders, the main character's eyes widen. For example, she continues, if I want to do something, you have to do it too. To his horror, he finds himself mimicking her actions, completely unable to control his body. Stop, what's wrong with me? Why can't I control it? He panics. Anyone watching would be in stitches, seeing his eyes flash with anger and embarrassment. Are you really worried I'll reveal your identity as a real-world artist? Byun laughs. Do you think about the consequences? Males and females have different body structures, you know. The same action can lead to very different results. Miracles can happen. With a playful grin, she scratches her secret spot, making noises that would make a cat jealous. This is definitely something kids shouldn't see. Despite his fear and confusion, the main character finds himself helplessly performing the same actions. I give up, he finally screams. Byun stands behind him, satisfied. But inside, she's not as calm as she appears. She's worried, wondering if she's gone too far. But summoning him has become a reality, and there's no turning back now. After a moment of hesitation, she resolves to seize this opportunity. She wants to become the top creator of this underground comic, and nothing will stop her. Byun, determined to perfect herself, gently snaps her fingers. Instantly, the main character feels a lightness wash over him as he regains control. You're now free from the magic, Byun announces. Anyway, I'll let you go first. Just wait for me to plan the next steps. The main character's face darkens with frustration. Do I still need a plan? If you want to join in, just dive right in. His words and smile spark Byun's curiosity. Start what? She asks. Suddenly, her tentacles wrap tightly around him. Do you want to tell me this is magic? Isn't this the kind of thing we're dealing with? He feels himself being lifted into the air by countless tentacles. Byun starts to panic. Who would want to do this to you? Seeing her panic, the main character chuckles. Not bad at first, but why are you resisting so fiercely now? Don't worry, even though I can control these tentacles, they're not exceptional. You're completely powerless to control them. Byun tries to suppress the bizarre sensations the tentacles bring to her body. But if it's like this, what should I use to draw my hind legs? She wonders aloud. One of her tentacles lowers her arm as the main character suggests. Then let go of one of your arms. Byun, both angry and embarrassed, blushes. Her legs are still suspended in the air, and in an inverted position, she helplessly cries out, Enough! Let me down! After a while, they set aside their initial grievances, and Byun creates a new storyline, a scene of a girl hanging upside down by tentacles. She immediately uploads the drawing online and receives feedback. Wow, after using you as a reference, the reviews have really improved, she exclaims happily. But then she frowns, reading the comments. Why are there still people like this? She wonders. Wow, the tentacle textures have improved so quickly. Did you buy Octopus for reference? It's amazing. If artists do this, there's no need for further practice. Bion is blown away by the praise. And this name too? Isn't this an exaggeration? She muses. One commenter named Bonai claims he's never seen such tentacles. I only thought of the summoning technique. It seems like the effectiveness has increased significantly. Suddenly, Bion turns to the main character suspiciously. Why have you been tapping your phone since we started? Moreover, why are you so scared? The main character nervously stares at his phone, awkwardly shaking his head. Is there something like that? I was just replying to some messages. In reality, he's very annoyed, trying to delete his previous comment that said the author had never seen a tentacle. How could anyone know she is an artist, he thinks, realizing he might have dug his own grave. To make matters worse, the system attempts to delete his comment, but it's too late. Meanwhile, Byung happily plays with the tentacles and provides her own comments. I belong to the type who observes and references, she reflects. Even if I have personal experience, I still couldn't see the full picture for a localized area. It's fine, but if you want to expand it to the whole body, then buy yourself a doll, the main character shouted, clearly annoyed. Stop saying that! If you keep talking about the review, I won't just sit quietly. At that moment, the girl excitedly handed him a draft and said, by the way, I've also drawn a comic draft. What do you think of it? He took the draft and the main character exclaimed, wow, that's pretty fast. Let me take a look. As he read the story, the girl stood beside him, eagerly observing. However, the expression on the main character's face gradually became calm. By the end, his enthusiasm vanished completely, leaving the girl dumbfounded. With a sigh, he said, you know, to create a good work, one must have a peaceful and tranquil mind. Hearing this, the girl questioned, what do you mean? Is my comic so bad? The main character scratched his head and explained, well, the drawings are nice, but the content is too generic. Your plot isn't different from others. The girl, curious, replied, but don't readers tend to skip over important scenes? So going straight to the highlights isn't bad, right? Suddenly, the main character slammed the draft onto the bed and seriously reminded her, don't underestimate underground comics. Because of that thinking, there are more and more boring works. Readers are very selective. If you want to achieve a masterpiece, you must have a compelling plot and characters, not just, well, you know, the tentacle stuff. The girl seemed to ponder this, mumbling about plot and observation. Then she suddenly said, so we can only switch to another path. You go and date other people while I'll stand beside and secretly observe. That way, both the plot and visuals can be perfectly resolved. Just emphasize your own identity, which is to flirt with other girls. The main character was shocked and stone-faced. That's not what I meant. It's not about this. The girl excitedly smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Ah, finally, you can date beautiful girls. Congratulations. Looking at her smile, the main character felt annoyed. Clearly, you are the happiest person here. I told you it's useless. Why are you telling me to go flirt with girls? Every time I get excited, these tentacles grow out of me. You're telling me to go flirt with girls? Isn't that like telling me to commit suicide? The girl appeared oblivious. Huh? What did you just say? You're the one who came up with this idea, so I assume you like it yourself. The main character shouted in frustration. Don't be so reckless. Seeing this, the girl smiled and stepped closer, saying, don't worry, if you get caught, I'll also get into trouble, right? Because we're in the same boat. I'll find a way to help you. While saying that, she held the main character's handsome face and continued, moreover, I won't push you to the brink. You're the type of person who, when standing next to me, can't suppress your thoughts. Holding that tentacle, the main character felt dizzy from her suggestive actions. He stammered, so, there's no problem, right? Just approach them, make them fall for you, and let me find inspiration for the comic. Follow me and I won't let you down. You can not only have a sweet romantic relationship with the beautiful girls in the academy, but also remove the curse that turned you into a tentacle monster. Upon hearing this, the main character was shocked and panicked, hastily asking, do you mean you can turn me back into a normal human? The girl nodded and sat down on the bed. Of course! I know magic. You saw it yourself, right? Right now in front of you is a female demon inheriting the family's magic lineage. She continued, although we need to investigate why you were cursed. The curse cannot be removed immediately. However, for this type of magic, you won't find anyone more proficient than me. You help me draw the comic, and I will find a way to remove the curse from you. That's the deal. What do you think? He silently looked at the confident girl in front of him. A moment later, as she began to lose patience, the main character nodded. I agree with you. The girl smiled with satisfaction. Good, then we can't delay any longer. Her foot was on the bed as she pulled out something from under it. It was a box with a handle. The main character looked at it fearfully, wondering what it could be. He was startled and stepped back. Wait, I've seen this kind of scenario in comics before, he thought. After all, she had drawn such plots herself. Why would there be signs inside? Was it some kind of interrogation tool? No way. Such cruel and inhumane actions are absolutely not allowed. Looking at the subtle smile on the girl's face, the main character pondered deeply. Of course, Bai Anan didn't know what he was thinking. She eagerly hugged her box. The first step was to find the target of their action. When the box was opened, countless photos spilled out. The main character looked at them, confused. Photos, he exclaimed. Seeing his puzzled expression, Bai Anan tilted her head and asked, they're not photos? The main character awkwardly changed the subject. Let's move on then. He noticed the photos scattered on the floor. They were all pictures of youthful schoolgirls. Are these photos of our school students? Where did you get them? He asked, bending down to pick one up. Bai Anan mischievously explained, some time ago the student association asked me to take photos of the school's disciplinary situation to promote the school. Upon hearing that, the main character pointed to a photo and questioned, so this isn't anonymous? And why is there a photo of a teacher's head? Are you planning to conquer the teachers? Bai Anan shook her head and flopped onto the bed. Don't worry about such trivial issues. The key point is that our first step is to find your target. The main character was speechless. I still need to find one? I can't stand the rejections I've had to endure every week. Bai Anan squinted her eyes and instructed, of course, you can't just choose anyone. They must have a special personality to attract readers. It's best if they're really funny. The main character thought, how can I keep up with Bai Anan's train of thought? Finding someone like that is really hard. After finishing her words, her gaze landed on a photo. She happily picked it up and said, here it is. Go and flirt with Kim Titit. The main character was startled and panicked. What kind of joke is this? It can't be like that. But Bai Anan ignored his objections, staring at the photo and praising it. No, look at this. Kokam Tiet is the head lady of the entire school. This school is famous for hating boys. The number of rejected boys could form 2 circles around her. Kokam Tiet was a beautiful girl with light purple pupils, somewhat cold and distant. Some said she had no interest in boys. It was rumored that her entire environment was just a small part of her family's wealth. If you made her unhappy, you could get expelled, or worse, disappear from the mortal world. Very special, isn't it? You seem to be good at gathering daily intelligence, Bai Anan teased. By the way, Kokam Tiet is actually a lesbian, not interested in men. The main character firmly denied, so this matter is basically unapproachable, but unexpectedly, Bai Anan made an even more outrageous proposal. Then why not become a woman? Is that not allowed? The main character stood frozen, jaw dropped like a stone statue. His inner self went silent, leaving no one to understand his shock. Seeing his intense reaction, Bai Anan laughed scornfully. What do I want you to do? Cook? I want you to disguise yourself as a woman to approach Kokam Tiet, win her heart, and date her as a girl. First, let me see, she added, already checking the main character's physique. Bai Anan began to ponder how to transform him into the perfect girl that Kokam Tiet would like. The next day at school, a sweet and beautiful female student with shiny golden hair appeared. Her innocent face wore a shy blush, yet inside she was screaming, just starting and already wanting to play big. From head to toe, the main character had transformed into a girl in a spectacular way. If no one said otherwise, you might think she was some beautiful young lady. Even the mirror did a double take. No. Ooh, who's that cutie, it seemed to say. The transformation was so convincing that if Xiao Zheng walked past a beauty contest, the judges might just hand him the crown on the spot, thinking they'd discovered the next big thing. Don't look at me anymore. That name, Bai Anan. If not for the sole purpose of eliminating Shou Tu, who else but a demon would dress like that? And yet, here she was, Koti, pouting in that absurdly short dress, completely unaware of the chaos she was causing. She was the main female lead, after all. The guy had no choice but to act a certain way around her, though the endless gossip and the curious stares from everyone around only made him blush from head to toe. His heart thudded in his chest as a thought crept in. Is that uniform even from our school? It didn't look familiar, but a sweet girl like her, how had he never noticed her before? Meanwhile, the girl who had confessed to the main character just the day before stood nearby, her eyes fixed on the scene in front of her. The sight of the unfamiliar female student made something click in her mind. A sense of familiarity tugged at her thoughts as though she had seen her somewhere before, or maybe it was just her overthinking things. But one thought gnawed at her: is the main character sneaking people into the school? Suspicion lingered until a sudden hand slapped the main character's shoulder, making him jump. "Hey, classmate." Startled, he turned to see a stubborn chome student cross-dressing with an oddly confident air. Her curious gaze fixed on him as she asked, "You look very familiar. Have we met before?" The main character's mind raced. Panicked but trying to keep his cool, he forced a stiff, awkward reply. "Probably not." Just as the tension threatened to swallow him whole, salvation came in the form of another friend who appeared out of nowhere and tugged the curious girl away. "Little Fee, what are you doing?" they scolded, flashing an apologetic look at the main character. "I'm really sorry about her." Relief flooded him, but his attention lingered on the pair as they walked off. He could still hear their conversation. "From yesterday, weren't you rejected by the main character? Why are you pulling this old trick today? What, even gender trends have changed now?" Hearing that, the main character sighed deeply. His face burned as if he'd been caught red-handed in something ridiculous. All he wanted was to disappear. Maybe I should just find a good place to hide. Outside the school gate, a luxurious car stopped. Seeing that, the surrounding female students excitedly cheered, "Ah, Miss Dai is coming, Miss Dai!" Hearing that form of address, the cross-dressing main character who was walking suddenly stopped and startled. Looking back, he saw a female attendant respectfully open the luxurious car door and invite the young lady. Then, a pair of slender legs stepped out of the car. It was a female student with black hair and cold eyes. She took her bag from the attendant's hand and stepped into the schoolyard amidst everyone's admiration. "Ah, Miss D!" It seemed this lady had many fans in the school. As for the main character, his mouth gaped when he saw the fashionable outfit on that lady. Indeed, she was a fashion icon. He also realized that the lady was Quan Cam. Around her, Quan Cam always exuded a strong presence and an atmosphere that didn't allow strangers near, making the main character worry and wonder how he could start a conversation with her. It seemed that the main character's gaze was too direct, and Quan Cam, who was walking, turned her head sharply and looked straight at him. She tilted her head slightly, her gaze piercing yet calm, and asked, "Classmate, why are you staring at me?" Her soft voice carried an undertone of curiosity, but her expression remained unreadable. The main character froze as if he'd been caught red-handed. He panicked, waving his hands wildly in front of him as though warding off accusations. "It's a misunderstanding. I'm truly sorry," he blurted out. But internally, chaos erupted. "What am I saying?" he screamed at himself. "This is the perfect chance. Why didn't I just go with it and talk to her for a while?" Yet the girl's demeanor was as cold as winter frost. Without so much as a second glance, she brushed past him, her steps graceful and deliberate. Her aloofness created an invisible barrier, one that made her seem unreachable. The main character could only stand there, rooted in place, watching her retreating figure. How does someone even start a conversation with someone like that? He wondered bitterly. Meanwhile, elsewhere on campus, a pair of binoculars tracked every movement of the scene from a concealed vantage point. High up on the rooftop, friend Anan lowered the binoculars with a triumphant grin, her excitement barely contained. "Yes, that's it. That young lady's demeanor is exactly what we need. Girls like her, they're the true prizes. Only they are worth conquering." The main character, seated nearby, was in complete distress, his palms sweating as he tried to reason with Anan. "Are you sure you want me to flirt with Miss Dai? Have you even considered what's going to happen if we get caught?" His voice was barely above a whisper, laced with hesitation and dread. Anan, however, whipped around with an almost maniacal enthusiasm, her expression lighting up as though the thought of getting caught made things even more thrilling. "Caught? Isn't that even better?" she exclaimed, her hands gesturing dramatically. "I dream of that moment. Imagine it. There you are, disguised as a woman, getting close to that young lady. Just when the two of you are at the peak of an intimate, perfect couples moment, the truth is revealed. She finds out the person beside her isn't what she thought. Can you imagine her face?" Anan's voice rose with exhilaration as she continued, her eyes gleaming with theatrical delight. "The way her emotions will clash: love, betrayal, disgust, and despair. She'll want to run away, but feel trapped in her own conflicted heart. Her expression full of contempt, yet unable to resist the weight of the situation. That's the ultimate drama." The main character sank further into himself, his mind spinning. This isn't just insane, it's borderline cruel, he thought, but saying no to Anan was somehow harder than facing Mrs. D's icy demeanor. At this point, the main character could no longer bear to hear it, hurriedly trying to stop Anan. Unable to say anything further, the young man's mood now felt as if someone was strangling him. If it were to be exposed, even only this phantom would tear me apart into pieces. But Anan shook her head encouragingly. Don't worry, I'll mobilize the student council's connections to help you. Your top priority now is to disguise yourself as a woman. Approach Kwan Kam, win her heart, and date her as a girl. I have arranged your new identity. You'll be in the same class as Kwan Kam next. Now go to class, quickly. A moment later, in the classroom, the students whispered among themselves. Lucky, she's so beautiful and didn't skip school. She's so cute and her figure is also amazing. I noticed her when she first came to school this morning. I didn't expect her to appear in our class. At that moment, a backpack was slammed onto a desk and a beautiful figure sat down in her seat. Glancing to the side, the main character froze, astonished. Amira, Kwan Kam? She's sitting there? How did that happen? At that moment, the teacher opened the door and walked in. Now we will begin roll call and prepare to start. Meanwhile, the main character tried to wave and greet the cold lady, saying, Hi, hello. Truly, she was a nice queen. Kwan Kam only responded with a cold hello, not even lifting her eyes to look at him. This made the main character feel as though he was falling into an ice cave. A sense of distance, not her. It feels like being in another world. The teacher began roll call, calling Kwan Kam's name, and she answered with a calm sound. After that, the teacher called the next name, Tan, but there was no response. She repeated it again. By the third time, she shouted, Tu Tran! The main character suddenly remembered it was his alias and awkwardly stood up. At that moment, the teacher said, You're a transfer student, right? Please get along with everyone. Yes, ma'am, he replied stiffly, his voice cracking ever so slightly. The surrounding girls erupted into a flurry of whispers, their excitement palpable. As expected, it's the transfer student, Tutrin. That's such a cool name. It's so catchy and easy to remember, one girl gushed. Wait, isn't that the name of that famous guy? Just a different tone? Another chimed in, her eyes narrowing with intrigue. Among them, Kwan Kam spoke up in a tone laced with suspicion. Tutron? She repeated, her questioning inflection piercing through the air. The main character's stomach dropped, his face growing hotter by the second. The whispers felt like daggers aimed directly at him. He clenched his fists, his heart pounding wildly in his chest. Embarrassment mixed with a growing sense of dread, and he couldn't bring himself to look anyone in the eye. Anan, what did you change my name to? He screamed inwardly, feeling his frustration boil over. As the whispers only seemed to grow louder, his panic deepened. His eyes darted nervously, unable to focus, while an icy chill crept up his spine. He could feel it, the suffocating pressure of someone staring right through his disguise. The words echoed again, louder in his mind. Tu Tren, have I been discovered? The thought clawed at him as he ground his teeth in frustration. His mind raced with worst-case scenarios. How long can I keep this up before everything falls apart? Yet no matter how hard he tried to calm himself, the fear of exposure loomed larger with each passing second. The class teacher slamming her hand on the desk, her voice rising above the noisy chatter as she yells at the students to be quiet and stop all the wild guesses. Her patience is clearly running thin as she glares around the room, her eyes sharp with frustration. She demands to know if they seriously believe someone would go through so much trouble like pretending to be the opposite gender, faking documents, and creating an entirely false identity just to attend a class. The idea seems ridiculous to her, and she scoffs at the thought, but what she doesn't realize is that Xiao Zheng is already doing exactly that, sitting right under her nose, carefully maintaining his disguise. Trying to regain control of the class, the teacher shifts her attention to Xiao Zheng. With a stern but slightly softer tone, she tells him to ignore the other students' nonsense and focus on his studies. Xiao Zheng nods politely, his face calm, hiding the relief he feels inside. He quietly sits down, his mind racing as he thinks about the real reason he's here. He needs to get closer to Xiao Xingxue. From Chao Qingshu's point of view, Xiao Yan appears very cute, with his slightly shy expression as he leans over and softly says he hasn't received his textbooks yet. His voice is polite and friendly as he asks if she would mind sharing hers. Chao Qingshu feels a little nervous, her heart skipping a beat for reasons she doesn't fully understand. but she quickly agrees, offering a small smile. Xiao Zheng takes this as a good sign and smoothly moves his desk closer to hers, trying to appear casual. Inside, he feels a surge of confidence, convinced that his plan is working perfectly. In his mind, the hardest part, blending in and making that first connection, is already over. From Xiao Zhen's point of view, Xiao Qingsui is sitting very confidently, her posture straight and composed, as if nothing could rattle her. This only makes Xiao Zhen more anxious. He starts to wonder what he should do next to get closer to her. His mind races with ideas. Maybe I could pretend to trip and fall on her, he thinks, imagining the scene in his head. But then he immediately panics at the thought. No, that's way too much physical contact. What if she thinks I'm a creep? He scratches the back of his neck, glancing at her from the corner of his eye. Okay, plan B. Maybe I could stand on my desk and shout something dramatic, like, I am the king of this classroom. He pictures the entire class staring at him in shock. Wait, no, that's not bold, that's just weird. Definitely too weird. His thoughts spiral as he fidgets with his pen. Maybe I should just take the lead, be cool and confident like the main character in a romance story. But the idea makes his stomach twist. Yeah, right, I can't handle that. I'll probably just freeze up or say something dumb. The more he thinks about it, the more frustrated he gets. If this keeps up, I'm gonna turn into one of those crazy side characters with wild expressions and zero chill. Okay. He sighs inwardly, remembering all the romance stories he's read. Usually there's one person who takes the lead, the confident one who makes the first move. So why are there two shy characters in this story? How is anything supposed to happen like this? But just as he's lost in his mental chaos, something unexpected happens. Xiao Qingxue suddenly puts her hand on his thigh. His entire body goes rigid, his heart practically leaping into his throat. What? His mind blanks out. He stares straight ahead, wide-eyed, unsure if he's even breathing. Are you okay? Qiao Qingwei asks softly, her voice filled with concern. But Xiao Zheng is too nervous to respond. Words? What are words? His brain has completely abandoned him. You seem really nervous, she adds, her hands still resting there, casual and unaware of the internal meltdown she's causing. Xiao Zheng's imagination kicks into overdrive. In his mind, Xiao Qingshui leans in closer, her face inches from his, her eyes soft and inviting. Is she making the first move? Is this happening? His heart pounds like a drum. The imaginary scene gets more dramatic, almost cinematic, as she leans in, their faces just about to... Xiao Zheng. Her voice snaps him back to reality like a slap to the face. She's staring right into his eyes now, her expression serious, waiting for an answer. The intense eye contact makes him feel like he's about to explode from sheer awkwardness. Desperate to escape, he blurts out the first thing that comes to mind. Where's the bathroom? Qiao Qingshui blinks, surprised by the sudden question. Down the hall to the left. Thanks, I really need to go, he says quickly, grabbing his stuff and practically sprinting out of the classroom. As he walks down the hallway, his face burning with embarrassment, he tries to process what just happened. Was that real? Did she actually put her hand on my thigh? Or did I just imagine the whole thing? His thoughts are a tangled mess. It felt like I was about to fall into some strange romance dimension. Deciding he can't figure this out on his own, he sighs and mutters to himself, I'll have to ask Bai Anan about this later. When Xiao Zheng finally reaches the bathroom, he's still flustered, his mind spinning from what just happened with Xiao Qingshui. He stops in front of the restroom doors, staring at the signs. One for boys, one for girls. His eye twitches. Which one do I use? Panic bubbles up. I can't go into the men's room. That would blow my cover in an instant. He glances around nervously, making sure no one's watching, then quickly slips into the women's bathroom. The door clicks shut behind him, and he lets out a shaky sigh of relief. Why did I drink so much water this morning? He grumbles to himself, regretting every sip. After finishing, he splashes some cold water on his face, trying to cool down his racing thoughts. Okay, calm down. You're fine. Just leave like nothing happened. But as he reaches for the door, he hears an unexpected click. The door's locked. His hand freezes on the handle. Slowly, he turns around, feeling a chill crawl up his spine. Standing by the door is someone he doesn't recognize. A shadowy figure, blocking his way out. His heart jumps. Who's there? He asks, trying to keep his voice steady, though it comes out a little too high-pitched to sound confident. The figure steps forward, their face still hidden in the dim light. Then a voice speaks, low and teasing. Girls don't use the bathroom like this. Xiao Zheng's stomach drops. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.